All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to, not the very first, but one of our first webinars of 2025. I'm Bobby Hiller at MetaStock. I'm here in our corporate office in Utah. It was about 10 degrees below freezing this morning, so I'm rocking the MetaStock hoodie here that was under my coat, as well as the hat to stay warm. I hope you all had a great new year. We're excited here to have Zaheer Anwari with us from Sublime Trading. I've done a number of presentations now over the last couple of years with Zaheer. He always does such a fantastic job. I had the pleasure of meeting him and Kola from Sublime Trading in London last year, and that was fantastic. So we're really excited to have him here with us. He always stays very topical, but his strategy that he's been primarily utilizing over the last many years has proven to be, kind of somewhat timeless over that time, and it's based off a lot of, history here. So really excited to have Zaheer with us. I'm not going to be taking up too much of your guys' time today. I'm just kind of here to make sure things flow somewhat smoothly. I know we got started a little early on GoToWebinar. Thanks, guys, for hanging out in the room with us. And everyone in GoToWebinar, if you guys have questions throughout, feel free to just type them into the chat box. Myself and Zaheer can see those and respond. Also, those of you over in YouTube, we are monitoring that as well. So you can send your questions there, and I can refer them over to Zaheer throughout today's presentation. Before I get too far into things, I do quickly have to read the fun disclaimer here. So today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using the specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. MetaStock does not endorse the purchase of any security, nor is it paid for the promotion of any security. No information contained in this presentation should be construed as investment advice or a solicitation to buy any security. All right, and now that that's out of the way, once again, I'll say hello and introduce Zaheer. Hi, Zaheer, how are you doing today?
Hey, Bobby, good to be back with MetaStock. So happy New Year to you all. Happy belated New Year to you all. I hope it's been a great 2025 so far.
Yeah, so far so good. And yeah, as mentioned, super happy to have you here today. And I am going to just kind of pass the controls over to you now.
Great.
And if I see some timely questions, I might kind of touch in with you, as I know you've had me do that in the past, if you want to do that same format.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Okay. Now, let me just pass the controls over here. All right, I've made you the presenter. And I can see
my title screen.
Yep, Market Edge Technology, PowerPoint.
Yes.
Take it away.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bobby. Right, welcome guys. As I said, Happy New Year. Let's dive straight in because today we are going to be covering how to use the Market Edge Technologies add-on, which we have created for MetaStock, shortened to MET, and a trend following investment strategy in 2025 to significantly improve your portfolio performance to that sort of 30% plus mark a year and every year. You're about to learn a predictable and systematic way to identify the very best stocks and assets, when to enter the market for optimal returns for both bull and bear trends, blocking out all the social media noise. I know at the moment there's a lot of talk about a potential bear market on the horizon. So we want to be prepared for both eventualities, either a continuation to the upside of this long bull trend we've been in since 2009, or potentially a reversal to the downside, the unlikely event of a reversal to the downside in case we have a repeat of 2000 and 2008 again. Also, how to ultimately then hold, compound, and exit for maximum gains, outperforming all other strategies and all the various money managers out there. and then ultimately how to adapt this process around your lifestyle so you can continue to enjoy life while your money grows in the background. Because ultimately, guys, we do not want to give up the beauty of life to be glued to a screen, and neither do we have to. And so that's where today's process is going to really sort of open the eyes up for you guys. Now, just a bit of a warning, I call this the point of no return. Ultimately, you can't unlearn this stuff. What I'm about to share with you is different to everything you will have either seen or heard about the stock market, and really the other financial markets as well, whether that's commodities and currencies as well, because this is translatable to the other markets. You will have a choice to make at the end of this presentation, because ultimately your eyes will be opened and you'll have to decide if you're going to go back to what you're doing before or embrace this new way of achieving better returns. So just to understand, guys, that we are about to hit the point of no return. Okay, I'm going to go through the simplest, most effective and most profitable way to find, invest and compound stocks and assets, period. And proof of that is in 2023, we had our track record audited going back almost a decade, which averages over 30% a year. And off the back of having our track record audited, we had our hedge fund called the Reversey Fund incorporated in Luxembourg. This is no small achievement, guys. You've got to really have a good track record, a verified audited track record to be able to have a hedge fund incorporated in Luxembourg. So this is coming with some real meat on the bones for you. And here's the thing, guys, without being a genius, an expert or a city professional to be successful, or coming up with a brand new, never seen before strategy in order to get ahead in the market, or without killing yourself sifting through misleading information online, and without needing to rely on word of mouth and misinformed opinions. Hopefully you guys have learned by now how listening to other people's opinions can really get you burnt. The truth is very much in the charts. The markets are the source of truth, and we always want to refer to that, not opinions. And that includes our own opinions, guys. They will always get us on the wrong side of the market. And without wasting money and time on endless newsletters and tools that overpromise and underdeliver, we want to put as much money into our broker account as possible and just have the bare minimum that we need in terms of technology to be able to manage and grow our money. And also without any previous experience. So the newbies on this webinar, I absolutely have you covered. For the guys that already have experience and may already be doing fairly well, often that sort of single digits, 8, 9, 10% a year, you're going to learn some processes and approach that will hopefully push that towards that 25, 30% plus mark. Okay, just a brief background about myself, guys. I have a degree in software engineering, which is why I'm absolutely obsessed with all the sort of tech that is available to us today. And I always gravitate towards the best tech available. Hence why when I discovered MetaStock, again, it was a point of no return for me. I'd used other software and MetaStock was far superior to anything I'd tried before. So I do have a degree in software engineering, which is where all the technology love came in terms of the tech available for trading. I worked for Oracle for a year. I didn't enjoy it. Ultimately, guys, we're going to end up in some sort of 9 to 5. Ideally, we want to enjoy what we're doing, and I absolutely had no interest ultimately. After 4 years of studying software engineering and working for Oracle, I just realized that sort of technology, I love technology, but working in a 9 to 5 structure in that sort of field, it just wasn't for me. I then became a TEFL teacher, which is teaching English as a foreign language. I lived in Taiwan, Japan, Philippines, teaching English, came back to London after a couple of years, became an advertising photographer. Now, this is where two things came together. First, understanding why we always need to be using high-end technology. So the camera that we used in advertising photography was a Hasselblad camera. That was a £65,000 camera that we were using. Our images went on the side of buses and billboards. And for repeat clients, we always needed to deliver. On top of that, it's really when the money started coming in for me. So I started making good money, saving it. And that's when the interest in trading and investing really started, I guess, where my interest started coming in. 2007 was a pivotal point for me because that's when I came across trend following, and I'm going to come across that I'm going to give you more details in how that came about in a second. Co-founded Sublime Trading in 2018, and then, as mentioned earlier, we had our hedge fund incorporated in Luxembourg in 2023. So that's the journey that I have been on. One thing that I would like to say, guys, is that I struggled for years trying to understand this stuff. As you can probably imagine, coming from a software engineering background, I never worked in the city or the institutions or hedge funds. Everything was sort of self-taught, going online. It was just a very, very sort of frustrating period, but I was still obsessed with the idea of being a successful stock market investor. There was just something about it. Back then, I remember talking to my friends, and they were all into property. They all wanted property portfolios, and it just never appealed to me. There was something about the stock market. It was elusive, it was foreign, it was mysterious, it was lucrative, and I was just absolutely obsessed with nailing this and cracking the nut. And this picture, guys, this picture is, I'm sure you guys have seen this picture, and every time I see this picture, it brings a smirk on my face, because that person there at the bottom, that was me going back to 2007. And the reason why I say that is because I was so close to just sort of walking away from this because of all the frustration. But I stumbled on a trading strategy with a twist. And that trading strategy came about when I read this book, Way of the Turtle by Curtis Faith. It came about, it's just unbelievable how it came my way, but it was put into my hands, and I read this book, and it was mind-blowing for me. If you guys have not read this book, it's absolutely fascinating story about how everyday individuals were taught to trend follow, and how they turned over millions, absolutely millions of dollars over a 4-year period. But what's interesting about it is that not everyone was successful. Some were uber successful, and some were dropped from the experiment. If you haven't read this, guys, this must be at the top of your reading list at the start of 2025. Now, here's what I discovered from the book. Anyone with a rules-based system could be successful. Simplicity is key. Charts tell you everything you need to know. The less you do, the more you make, which really took me away from the sort of day trading approach that I had in my early days. As you can imagine, I'm sure some of you guys on here are day trading or trying to make it work. Day trading, if I'm honest with you, will really work, if ever. It's one of those strategies that over promises and under delivers. It's been sold as a sexy way to make money, but if you try to execute that over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year period, you'll either blow up or you'll blow out if you last that long. Look away from day trading and instead embrace trend following, and ultimately a breakout strategy, which is what the turtle traders were very, very good at, is extremely powerful. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. So after I read that book, I learned to use and built the tech. So that's when I started gravitating towards MetaStock because of its scanning ability, started understanding how to use that. I started building tools that I needed to start analyzing charts, and developed and optimized a trend following strategy. So the beauty of that book is that the strategy was explained at the back of the book, but that strategy that was executed in the 80s, if you use the turtle trader strategy as it is today, it won't deliver the same returns. So my business partner Colin and I, once we read that book, we took the strategy and we started playing around with it, tweaking it, adding the technology, moving parameters around to see how we could optimize it. And that's ultimately how Sublime Trading, the trend following strategy that has delivered us over 30% a year over the last 10 years, and ultimately the Reversy Fund came about, and how the MET Market Edge Technologies was born. I'm now blessed to be in a position to be able to work with MetaStock, and I've also contributed to a number of these wonderful publications who have given me a platform and a voice to reach a larger audience. And ultimately, really, guys, the goal was to put trend following back in the limelight, as it became a forgotten art form with lesser strategies taking center stage. And what I mean by this is, when I was on my journey in the early days, there was a lot of information on day trading, swing trading, all those sort of short-term strategies. There was a lot of educators selling courses that overpromised and underdelivered. Warren Buffett, as he is now, was all over our media channel, so value investing was quite easy to find, but there was nothing on trend following, and it just blew my mind. So that was my goal. I had to put trend following back on the map, and the reason for that was to help others have the same confidence that I found, or that I created, to find, invest, and compound stocks like Fiserv. So between 2022, when the bull run recently came back into play, and the high of last year, Fiserv climbed 157%. Notice some of these stocks that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, and if you've actually heard of these stocks. I'm based here in the UK, so a lot of these stocks that the scanners in MetaStock find, I've never heard of. But when I then look at the charts and do my analysis, these are real big dog stocks that have been around for decades, huge history of delivering excellent returns for their investors. It's just phenomenal, the range of stocks that there are in the US stock market. So Fiserv was up moved 157% from 2022 to 2024. FTAI Aviation, this climbed a staggering 1,135%. GoDaddy, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with in terms of buying domain names, they're now more than a domain name. They're almost like a one-stop shop for startups and small businesses. 225% it climbed. Of course, Nvidia Corporation, 1,327%. Now, things like Nvidia is a buzz stock. It's all over our media channels, as it should be. But what we want to do is move away from it in terms of just being a buzz stock, and understanding, right, when do I want to enter? Why do I want to enter? How do I want to hold, compound, manage my risk? All of these sort of other elements that come around just jumping online and just going, right, I'm going to buy Nvidia. Palantir, as you guys probably know, is another buzz stock that's been just sort of buzzing all over our headlines. Again, we don't want to get caught up in those headlines. We want to understand when is a good time to actually invest in Palantir. So Nvidia, massive stock, very profitable stock. I've been holding this since the beginning of 2023. And Vistra Corporation, 744%. This was actually the top performing stock in the S&P 500 last year, yet it hardly gets any headlines, hardly any media attention. So what we want is a systematic approach that finds these stocks for us, so that we don't need to rely on headlines and sensationalism and ultimately miss out on stocks like this that aren't mentioned. Just to give you an idea of how the portfolio has performed since I started buying into the stock market, 2022 was a down year, and then at the end of 2022 the market started moving back up. Beginning of 2023, that's when I started buying into the stock market. We have a portfolio in our community, in the Sublime Trading community, that's based on a $20,000 amount. That portfolio is now grown to over $20,000, so it's running at over 100% return. So going back to that average of 30% plus, if we divide what we have achieved over the last 2 years, you know, it's over 50% a year for the last 2 years, in line with that 30% plus. It's been a very, very profitable run. And here's the thing, guys, we need to be aware of the fact that this may not have ended. This bull run may continue, and if it does continue, we want to keep buying and adding and compounding and pushing that 100% plus return to 150, 200, 250% if the stock market dictates that we should continue holding and compounding. Just to give you an idea of the sort of sector exposure, again, this is why I love the scanners in MetaStock, because it literally goes into all the sectors and it finds the strongest stocks from the strongest sectors. And that's what you want. You want to have a systematic approach that finds the best stocks from the strongest sectors. Hold, compound, rebalance, take profit, and then repeat the process again and again. Industrials did very, very well last year, yet it hardly got a mention in. If you go online, all we ever tend to hear about are tech stocks, big tech. They take up all our media channels, yet it was the industrial sector that performed very, very well last year. So the truth is, guys, the tried and tested and safe and simple will make a bigger long-term impact on your financial success and stability than anything else. And here's the thing, that may sound boring, which is why people tend to gravitate towards day trading and quick riches. But here's the thing, the reality is that there's nothing boring about the wealth you create through compounding gains. And I mean the numbers over, as if you let positions run and hold and compound, the numbers are mind-boggling. Let's just do some quick planning here, guys, just to give you an idea of why you want to gravitate towards trend following. Let's say you have that $20,000 starting amount, which is a really good starting amount. Let's say you want to grow it to $1 million. You have the ability to add a further $100 a month to the pot, and you have a 20-year horizon. You're looking at an annual return of 19.78%. So let's say 20% a year. That is ideally what you should be hitting if you want to turn 20K into $1 million over 20 years. If you reverse engineer the goals, banking system, less than 1%, okay, not going to happen. Tracker fund will still keep you short. Hedge funds, depends on which hedge funds you go for. Most of them generally tend to be between that 5 to 15% mark. Real estate, 10 to 11%. Wine and whiskey generally do very well, 13 to 14% a year. But here's the thing, guys, trending stocks will get you that over 30% per annum, as I've shown you over the last 10 years. This is what we have been achieving. So you've got to have trending stocks as part of your overall portfolio if you want to boost your performance. Let's just do some numbers, guys. If you start with 20K, add £100 a month to the pot, make 11% a year, you'll have roughly around $250,000 after 20 years. At 30% a year, you're going to have around $4.5 million. So it makes absolute sense to try and understand how to start adding trending stocks into a portfolio, because the rewards are vastly different. Okay, and then that will help people get back onto their financial goals. Ultimately, people have a variety of goals, from ultimately keeping money under their control, retirement, starting their own businesses, working the hours that they want to work, being more generous with charities, for example, wanting the finer things in life. Me personally, I like my tailored suits. I have a tailor who gets me some very, very nice material, something that I couldn't afford a while back. Now tailored suits tend to come as standard. Of course, you may want to upgrade your humble abode, but ultimately, guys, here's one thing that people tend to overlook. Financial illiteracy is a pandemic that gets little to no media attention. So by learning the skills that I will be sharing with you today, you'll then be able to pass that on to your kids and loved ones to carry on your good work. And so generational wealth, it becomes more than a buzzword. It's actually something that is attainable and something that you can set in motion. So what we want to do is use the MET to invest in trending stocks that are outperforming the S&P 500. Now, what does that mean? So the S&P 500 is an average. Some stocks match the average, some stocks underperform the average, other stocks outperform the average. It's these stocks that we want to use MetaStock to find, and then the MET to be able to analyze and add into your portfolio. So let's just have a quick look at those stocks that I've already mentioned. Between 2022 and 2024, the S&P 500 moved up 75%. But the stocks I've already shared, Fiserv, FTAI Aviation, GoDaddy, Nvidia, Vistra, they've all moved up far significantly than 75%. Vistra Corporation, in the time the S&P has moved up 75%, has moved up 744%. So given that we can find these stocks performing better than the average, this table should now make a lot more sense. Achieving that $4.5 million after 20 years should make a lot more sense if you move away from just leaving money in a tracker fund and actually investing in stocks outperforming the index. Stocks outperforming the index move up quicker, deliver superior returns over 12 to 18 plus months, where we can take profit and then rebalance the portfolio. Now, all the stocks that I mentioned all follow a particular pattern, which I call the 4PS method, or the 4-phase sequence method. Every stock that I invest in goes through 4 distinct phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then phase 4. Phase 1, proven performance. That means if a stock has performed well in the past, it's likely to perform well in the future, which is why I like stocks with at least 5 to 10 years of history, so I can analyze the history to see how well it's performed. We then want a consolidation base, ideally 3 to 6 months. We then want to break out from that consolidation to confirm the start of the next trend. And then it's phase 4 that we enter and start buying into the stock. And it's this new phase 4 that typically lasts 12 to 18 months. So I'm consistently looking for stocks that are entering their new phase 4. And ideally, when stocks are creating that new phase 4, I'm looking for stocks that are setting record highs, all-time highs. They're breaking out from a sideways market into new all-time highs, and then they're trending. Think of gold, for example. Gold was in a 13-year sideways market, phase 2. It broke out into phase 3 in March of last year, and since March of last year, it's setting record highs and trending up. I've been holding gold since March of last year, so this year, March will be 1 year. I can apply that same logic to commodities and currencies and stocks. Okay, so the 4PS method is what the MET has been programmed to look for. Stocks that are entering phase 4. Excuse me. Okay, so question is, how do we do this? How do we find stocks that move from phase 3 to phase 4? To do that, we need to switch to MetaStock. So you should now be able to see the MetaStock platform. I'm just looking, yeah, I think you can be able to see that. Okay, so when you first open up MetaStock, it looks something like this. MetaStock last year released their updated version, which looks absolutely fantastic and has some really, really cool features. The magic happens in this P in the top left corner. This is called the Power Console. So if I click that open, and you are then presented with this window. Now, there's a number of features here on the left-hand side. At the end of each day, when the market closes, the first thing I do is I hit the explore function, and then I go into my favorites, and you will see that there are 4 explorers that you get with the MET that will scan the market looking for stocks that meet a particular criteria. Ultimately, that 4PS method that I mentioned earlier. Where the scanners come in, alongside some of the criteria that I've already mentioned in the 4PS, we've also got volume added. So when I'm looking at large cap markets, particularly for me, that will be the US market, I'm looking for stocks with volume over 200K. If I'm looking at small to medium cap markets, so the UK market, and then also the Indian market, because we have a growing community in India, we look at stocks with volume over 50K. So we look for we have scanners that look for long positions here for small, medium, and large cap markets. And we've got scanners, 2 sets of scanners that look for short positions, again, from small, medium, and large cap markets. Right now, the markets are very much bullish. So I am at the moment focusing on just the long setups. Once the market, so what I do is let's focus on the large cap market. So what I will do is I will choose my scanner, which is the top one here. And then I will highlight the markets that I want MetaStock to scan. So if we look at equities North America, we've got NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, Amex. In total, you're looking at something like 11,000 stocks. That's a huge number of stocks that to go through manually would be an almost impossible task. So that's the beauty of MetaStock. I select these markets. In Explore, I set my Explorer, I set the markets I want to scan, and then I hit Start Exploration down here. And I let MetaStock run, and within 10 minutes, it's gone through 11,000 stocks, and it will give me a list of stocks that meet that 4PS criteria. Once I do that, I then save that list in my own sort of way of naming my list. So if you look here, for example, this is the list from yesterday's scans. That's the US market from 15th of January. 56 stocks were found from the scans yesterday. So you can see from 11,000 stocks, 56 met the 4PS criteria. I then analyzed those using the charting system that I'm going to go through in a second. And I then found stocks that went onto my watch list and then potentially into my portfolio. So that's how MetaStock and the scanners work. It's phenomenal, guys. I mean, I've used other scanners, and a lot of scanners out there, either free or cheap. Ultimately, you pay what you get. You pay what you get, which is, sorry, you get what you pay for, which is a free or a cheap scanner. There are literally no limitations to what MetaStock can scan for, and that's what makes it so superior to other scanners out there. Now, I've created a list here of a number of stocks that I'm going to go through in this session. The first chart that we're going to look at is the S&P 500. So once I've chosen my assets and then the template that I'm using, I then click open chart. And this is what you will be presented with when it comes to analyzing each of these assets. Okay, just give it a second while it opens up. I don't know if that's my internet being slow. Here we go, guys. Oh, excuse me, what's happening? Bear with me a second. Let me try that again. Apologies, guys. What's happening? Bear with me 1 second, please, while I get on top of this. Okay, I think I see what's happening, guys. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to shut down my MetaStock and I'm going to start again. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, guys. Let's go again. Give me 1 second. I'm going to fire up MetaStock again. Apologies. Tech demons for the first webinar of the year, but we'll get there. Bear with me a second, please.
Zaheer, thank you for taking the first hit of the tech demons this year, so we don't have to worry about them for the remainder of 2025.
Yeah, no worries at all. We will get there. We will get there.
You're doing great.
Okay, some messages in the background. All right, here we go. I'm going to give it another go. Okay, we have some movement going on here. Apologies, guys, nearly there. All right, I think we're good. Okay, right, we are back. We are back in play, guys. We are back in play. All right, happy days. Right, S&P 500. Make sure that, yes, okay. Bobby, we still good? Can you see my MetaStock platform?
Yeah, I can see your MetaStock is open here.
Fantastic.
I
Okay.
think there was a pop-up earlier that it was signed in on another computer, so I think that might have been the issue.
Ooh,
But
okay.
it looks good now.
It looks good now. It looks good now. Okay, so that's the important thing. Let me just do one thing. Bear with me 1 second. Let me do one thing. I just want to choose. I'm going to just choose. It's the same window, but it's better displayed for my screen here. So okay. Yes. Okay, we're back on track, guys. Right. I always start with the S&P 500 before I make any decisions about when I'm going to invest or what stocks I'm going to invest in. I first look at the S&P 500. Now, I don't invest in the S&P 500 as I've already mentioned. I look at the S&P 500 as a guide, and if the S&P 500 is bullish, I then start taking bullish positions on stocks that are likely to better than the S&P 500. So how do we do that? Well, this is my 4-screen setup. In the top left, I have the monthly. In the top right, I have the weekly. And bottom left and bottom right, I have 2 daily time frames. What I'm looking for, guys, is multi-time frame alignment. And I'm looking at the higher time frames because I'm looking for the big moves in the market. You won't find me going down to intraday time frames, 1 hour, 4 hour time frame, 15-minute time frames, because you're entering day trading territory, and that's where it gets very tricky. I'm looking for the big moves, the big trends in the market. So to do that, I need to have the right time frames. What I'm looking for is the monthly, the weekly, and the daily in the bottom left. These are my analysis time frames to all be moving in the same direction. So I've developed some tools that allow me to identify that. When I have identified market direction, the daily in the bottom right is where I then start executing positions on stock. So we'll come to the daily in the bottom right when we start looking at some of the stocks that I have for you. So let's start with the monthly time frame. What am I looking for on the monthly time frame? Well, first of all, I'm looking for a performance history. And looking at the S&P 500, we know that it has moved up consistently since 2009. So if I compress this further, going all the way back to 2009, which is this low point here, it's been in a massive bull run, a 700% roughly bull run. This was the last bear market of 2008. And since that low of 2009, the S&P has just been going up and up and up. And of course, there's been corrections along the way, COVID-19, the Black Swan event. We then had the I wouldn't say a bear market, but the correction of 2022 found support, and then it's continued moving up, and that's that 70% rise to the upside. Now, some of the markers on here, you'll notice that there's some horizontal lines. These are all key levels of support and resistance. Most of my major support and resistance levels are on the monthly time frame because that's where the big turning points are. What I'm looking for is the S&P 500 to be trading above all of these levels, and it currently is. You can see all of current price action is trading above all of these key levels of support and resistance. However, there is one major level currently above price. This is this green marker right here at the top. And that, guys, is, if I just reset this green line here is the high of last year, the highest point of 2024. Currently, we are trading below the highest point of last year. So right now, what I'm waiting for is the S&P 500 to move above the highest point of last year. When it does move above the highest point of last year, that's when I will start looking to buy and add further stocks into my portfolio. And of course, with the S&P 500 moving up, all the stocks that are currently in my portfolio that have gone through a correction, they are all starting to move up as well. And then I will start adding the next round of stocks to start growing and compounding the portfolio further. So that's the monthly. Now, what do we have on the weekly that helps guide that? Well, first of all, you notice that there's a trend filter. So if you look at candlesticks, generally they're either red or green. Green for bullish days, red for bearish days or bearish periods. What you'll notice is that we have green, gray, and red. So we have a trend filter telling us when the trend is bullish, bearish, or sideways. So since this area here, which is November 2023, if you remember, guys, I said at the beginning that the bull market started coming in at the end of 22, start of 23. You can see why the trend filter turned green, and we've only been green on the weekly time frame since the start of 2023. This massive bull run the stock market has been in for the last 2 years. It's above the 200 moving average, it's above the 50 simple moving average, and there are also some minor support and resistance levels. You'll notice these black dotted lines. These are minor support and resistance levels that we have on the weekly and also on the daily time frame. So what I'm looking for is that multi-time frame alignment. Is the weekly time frame bullish? Yes, the trend filter is green, it's above the moving averages, and it's above all the key support and resistance levels. The only reason I'm standing aside for now is because on the monthly time frame, we're still waiting for it to move above the high of last year. Now, we're going to go to the daily time frame to see if it's telling us what the weekly time frame is doing. Remember, we want monthly, weekly, and daily all moving in the same direction. So let's open up the daily time frame. Now, on the daily time frame, you'll notice, let me just expand the chart so we get a clearer picture. You'll notice that there is also a trend filter, green, gray, and red bars telling us that either the trend is bullish, bearish, or moving sideways. Because we're dealing with more candles on the daily time frame compared to the weekly and the monthly, there's going to be a little bit more change in the trend filter, changing from green to gray. So overall, since August of last year, the trend filter, since it bounced around the 200 simple moving average, the trend filter has been predominantly green or gray, telling us that the overall trend is to the upside. It then turned a little bit red in recent days at the start of the year when we had a bit of a drop and a correction, but the market has since moved up. It's a little bit difficult to see. Let me see if I can expand it. There you go, guys. You can see that the trend filter has turned gray. We're starting to move up. It's gone from red to gray, but we're still waiting for the trend filter to turn green and for the S&P 500 to start moving above the high of last year. Now, there is one additional feature across these time frames that's really, really useful, and that tells us whether the time frames are aligned in terms of the indicators on that time frame. So if you look at the monthly time frame, it's telling us that the indicators are aligned. Overall, it's bullish. If you look at the weekly time frame, it's telling us overall it's bullish. There's a ribbon here at the bottom. If you look at the bottom, guys, it says bullish. On the monthly, it says bullish. However, on the daily, it's not saying bullish. So the monthly and the weekly are aligned, but the daily is yet to align with the monthly and the weekly. And that is why I am standing aside for now until the daily confirms bullishness. And then we have multi-time frame alignment. What's also beautiful about MetaStock, guys, is that if you go into view and go into expert commentary, each time frame comes with its own built-in commentary. So it is telling you what is happening bar by bar. So on the monthly time frame, it's telling you what's happening. On the weekly and the daily together is telling you what's happening. So there's commentary built into the software that guides you along to make sure that you're doing the right things as the markets develop. And this has been programmed with a lot of time and effort with the guys at MetaStock to ensure that it's accurate to what the markets are telling you. And it's again, it's a phenomenal bit of kit. If I had this sort of commentary at the very beginning when I started, it would have made a world of difference, because I would have been aligned with what the market is doing rather than trying to figure out or assume what the market is doing. The commentary will tell you precisely what it's doing and guiding you along in terms of what you should be doing. Should you be standing aside? Should you be looking to buy in? If you are looking to buy in, where are the entry points, the stop losses? That's all found in the commentary. Okay, so that's the S&P 500. Point one, when do we enter the market? When the S&P 500 tells us. So what are we waiting for? We're waiting for a bull trend continuation. And that is with it printing new all-time highs. Now, if in terms of a bear market, guys, if it moves below the weekly 200 simple moving average, that is when a bear market is confirmed. And the reason why I say that is because the last time the S&P 500 broke below the weekly 200 simple moving average, which is this black line here, the last time it broke below the weekly 200 simple moving average was, yes, in 2008. It's not very clear on here because the weekly 200 simple moving average ends here, but it was around this area here. You can see the trend filter has turned red. This was in 2008 when it broke below the 200 simple moving average. Since then, it has only been trading above the 200 simple moving average, and that is why I have remained bullish since 2009. Okay, let's move on, guys. Let's look at some of the stocks that have been picked up by the scanner and how the tools will help guide in investing in these stocks. First and foremost, Visa. Let's have a look at the monthly time frame. Guys, it's a big dog stock. I don't know if you guys keep an eye on Visa, but look at the history of Visa. It is an absolutely phenomenal stock. Everyone knows Visa in terms of credit cards and debit cards, but very few people talk about it in terms of its stock. And it's actually already printing new all-time highs. Remember how I said we're looking for stocks outperforming the index? The index is yet to print all-time highs, yet these stocks that we're looking at are already printing new all-time highs. We're just waiting for them to start continuing to the upside. It's already performing very, very well. The next move up, and this will be a sign of a continuation. You can see here at the bottom, the ribbon is green, telling us that we are in a bull trend. If we go to the weekly time frame, the weekly time frame is telling us that it's bullish. All the indicators are aligned. The trend filter is green. It's above all the support and resistance levels. It's above the moving averages. If we look at this week's move, we're seeing bullishness. What we're waiting for is new all-time highs and a continuation to the upside. Look at the daily time frame. Let me just reset this scale so it looks a little bit more presentable. Right. If we look at the weekly time frame, we can see that there is momentum coming into the upside. Look at this ribbon, guys. We've got a strip here now. It's only just started, which is telling us that Visa on the daily time frame is now starting to enter bullish territory. So the monthly, the weekly, and the daily are all aligned, telling us bullishness. And we also have this indicator here at the bottom. If it's below the black line, that's telling us that we have a clean, linear trend in play, not a choppy trend that swings all over the place. As long as it remains below this black line, we have a clean, linear trend. Remember, that's what we want as investors. We want smooth journeys. We don't want wild swings in the stocks that we invest, up 1 minute, down the next. We want something that's smooth and linear, and it's a pleasant journey. Visa has a history of doing that. Once you get familiar with the indicators and the tools built in, Visa has a history of creating very, very smooth trends. Okay, once we've identified that a stock is ready to invest, what's the next stage? Well, that's where the daily in the bottom right comes in. The daily in the bottom right is our strategy page. Now, first and foremost, when the monthly, the weekly, and the daily are aligned, the bars on the daily in the bottom right will turn blue. So there's an additional filter telling us that this stock is aligned and it should be one to consider for the portfolio. Currently, you'll see that it's fallen out of the blue color, and that's because we're waiting for full alignment with new all-time highs. Once we get new all-time highs, we will now be back in full bullish territory. So there's still a little bit of patience on Visa, but once we start entering territory where we want to buy, the software will also tell you entry points. See these diamonds? These diamonds are entry points where you can then start entering the market. And each entry point, each diamond comes with its own entry point, its own stop loss, and its own target level. So these values, so if you look at the last diamond here, because this was the last entry point, the entry was at $319.21. You can just about see it here on the right hand side. You have a stop loss based on a particular formula at $295.28. And then we have a target level, which is $343.13. These are all based on algorithms that are, again, found in the commentary and explained in a very detailed manual that comes with the MET. Now, a point to note, guys, this target level is not where I take profit. This target level is where I wait for the stock to move towards. And then when it hits this level, I add more into the portfolio. So this is a level where I compound. It's not a level where I take profit. This isn't a one-to-one system like a day trading strategy. We want to follow the system, which the saying, cut losers short, let winners run, and compound your winning positions. It's a proven formula. So that's Visa for you guys. So in summary, what we're looking for is the monthly, the weekly, and the daily to be aligned. We're waiting for the software to have bullish ribbons under each time frame, the monthly, the weekly, and the daily to have bullish ribbons. We're waiting for the daily in the bottom right to turn blue, the bars to turn blue to confirm bullish alignment. We're then waiting for the diamonds to produce entry points, and each diamond comes with entry points, stop losses, and target levels that you can manually move into your broker account. The software is doing everything for you. You've just got to learn to use it. And again, guys, I'm going to reiterate, this is the very system that I've been using for about a decade and that we use for our hedge fund as well. Okay, let's look at another stock, Vistra Corporation. Now, Vistra Corporation is one of those stocks that's already printing new all-time highs in 2025. It's actually leading the way. This was the top performing stock of 2024, and it's already printing new all-time highs in 2025. So let's be a bit quick with this. Monthly is bullish, as we can see with the ribbon. Weekly is bullish, as we can see with the ribbon. Daily is now bullish, as we can see with the ribbon. If I open up the daily in the bottom right, the bars are blue. There you go. So it's confirming that all three timeframes are aligned. We're setting record highs, and there is a diamond on, I think this was Tuesday's bar. There's a diamond. That diamond came with an entry point, a stop loss, and the target level. If you had taken this position, you would now be live in this position. We're waiting for Vistra to move towards this level, and we can then start compounding. If it reverses and hits this level, we'll stop out for a small loss. And typically, I do not risk more than 1 to 2% of my portfolio on any one position. So my risk is always capped. My reward is uncapped through allowing positions to run and compounding. Okay, maybe just one more stock. I'm just conscious of time, guys. Sorry, those tech demons ate into some of the charts that I wanted to go through. But let's look at Amphenol. Amphenol is another stock that performed very, very well last year. It's still in my portfolio. I'm still holding it. Monthly is bullish. Weekly is bullish. But daily is not bullish. And that's because if we open the daily in the bottom right, it's currently going through a sideways market. The ribbon, the bars have not turned blue as yet because the time frames aren't fully aligned. But that's all part and parcel of trend structure. January is typically synonymous with a slow start to the year. It's typically where we have pullbacks, January, February pullbacks and corrections in the market. So what we're seeing is nothing uncommon. But of course, you go online and everyone is screaming market crash, when in fact, what we could be seeing is simply a base where a lot of stocks are consolidating, forming a base, that phase 2 that I mentioned, and then we're waiting for the phase 3 and the phase 4. So all we're waiting for now is phase 3, which is the breakout. That's when the bars will turn blue. And then when phase 4 comes into play, the diamonds will start appearing, and we can then start adding those into the portfolio. Okay, one last stock. I mean, this stock is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Deere & Co. This wasn't a stock that I was overly familiar with until going back to 2020, 2021. This was when it was in my portfolio. So phase 1 is here. And of course, currently it's going through phase 2. Since 2021, it's just been going sideways. The longer the consolidation, the bigger the breakout. This has been in a roughly 4 or 5 year consolidation. We're now waiting for a breakout. Now, of course, it's just going sideways for now, hence why there's no bullish ribbon. But it is a stock I'm watching, because if it does break out, then it is going to move. Monthly, weekly, and daily are all going sideways, so we don't have that bullish ribbon. But if I just open up the daily in the bottom right, when it does break out, the bars will turn blue, and that's when we can start considering this for the portfolio. So you can see again how you can quickly put stocks into any stock that you have right now in your portfolio, and you're wondering whether it was a good stock or not in the first place. You can find that stock through MetaStock and then use this system to analyze it. And if you do not have a blue If you do not have blue bars in the bottom right corner, then that's stock that either shouldn't have been in your portfolio, or it's a stock that's correcting right now and you're waiting for the next move up. Okay, let's have a quick look at one last stock, and the stock that I want to look at is actually Nvidia. Let me just have a look. I'll bring up Nvidia, because Nvidia is a fascinating stock, guys, because Nvidia was a stock that, if you remember correctly, Cathie Wood came out in 2023, at the beginning of 23, and said that there's no legs on Nvidia. I'm selling my shares. Since she sold her shares, Nvidia is up 1,300%, and it went through a 10-to-1 stock split last year, which is why it's a stock you want to watch. Overall, it's bullish on the daily, on the monthly. You can see we've got the bullish ribbon. We've got the bullish ribbon on the weekly. Daily, bottom right, bottom left, there is no bullish ribbon, and that's simply because for now it is just going sideways. It is going through a period of consolidation. If I compress the chart, you can see that we had the trends, all the diamonds up until the high of July, correction, another move up. We had some diamonds here, but in recent days and weeks, it's just been going sideways, and that's fine. It's consolidating. What we're looking for now is the next breakout. And when it does break out, that's when we can start considering stocks and positions for the portfolio. Wait for it to go from phase 2 to phase 3. Once it moves from phase 3 to phase 4 and these diamonds start appearing, we can expect Nvidia to start pushing up. And remember, guys, it's now 10 times cheaper than what it was last year. That means more money will be attracted to the stock given its price. It's more attractive at $140 than it is at $1,400. So expect more money to come in, and that has the potential to drive the stock back to $1,000, which is ultimately what we're looking for. So there you have it, guys. That's a run through of the MET. I'm going to quickly switch back to the slides just to bring this to a close. Okay, so the MET is a 3-step blueprint. First, pinpoint when to invest for maximum ROI. That's for market conditions. For that, we use the S&P 500. Step 2 is to identify top assets to invest in for maximum ROI. That's where the explorers came in, and that 4-screen setup and the analysis came in to apply the 4PS method. And then step 3 is clarity on how to invest for maximum ROI. That's where the daily in the bottom right came in. Once the bars turned blue, the diamonds started appearing. We then had the entry points, the stop losses that we could place into our broker account. And then we had the commentary as well, helping us all the way through if and when you need guidance. Okay, now the MET is ultimately your edge. Here's an expression, guys. If you cannot define your edge, you don't have one. And if you cannot define your edge, you don't have one. And if you don't have an edge, you will get eaten by someone who does. The MET is your edge. You've got to be able to define every single moment that you enter into the market, and the actions that you take have to be clear according to a plan. There cannot be any guesswork. It has to be systematic and it has to be rules-based. And that's all broken down for you in the MET, from the explorers to the 4-screen setup to the risk management framework to how to place positions in your broker account, how to cut, lose a short, how to hold positions, how to compound them. We then have the trailing stop loss that allows you to manage your positions. Let me just quickly go back. You see this red line here. I forgot to show that, guys. At the bottom, there is a red line. This is your trailing stop loss. So it's actually managing the position as the trend develops. So as Nvidia was moving up over weeks and months and years, the trailing stop loss was following, and then it eventually exited here. So you could potentially have been holding Nvidia for about 2 years before you exited from any of your positions. So the trailing stop loss as well is also clearly explained on the chart. You've got your take profit and rebalance every 12 to 8 months based on the trailing stop loss. And then ultimately you've got a systematic and a rules-based approach that is repeatable. And then, as I've already mentioned, guys, something that you can do to train your loved ones on to carry on your good work, ultimately a legacy to be proud of. So this is what you get with the MET. You get 4 explorers, 16 expert advisors, 11 bespoke indicators, 1 template, a detailed manual explaining everything, and a support structure from both us here at Sublime Trading and MetaStock. And I can tell you guys, the support structure at MetaStock is absolutely phenomenal. Okay, in terms of getting involved, it is priced at 1497, but the 2025 price, the start that we had at the start of this year, it is 997. And with that, of course, you get an onboarding call with myself, and we also have a private community specifically for MET members. Bobby, there are a couple of slides, but other slides, but I'm just going to leave it here and I'll move over to the questions.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Zaheer. We do have Devin asking, do you recommend buying stocks or an option? And he wants to know if the system or training recommends the number of shares to buy.
So, I mean, the broker is pretty much neutral. You can use whatever you want. I know we've got people in our community that use this for options. Here in the UK, we use CFDs and spread betting. We've got people who buy shares outright. So, I mean, in terms of how you choose to use the system, it's pretty much up to you. The system itself will guide you in how to build a portfolio, and that's where our community comes in as well. We guide people in what stocks are looking good. If you've got questions on whether a stock should be in your portfolio or not, we'll help you with that as well. So that's really where all the support structure comes in. Okay,
great. Thank you. And, you know, maybe a couple of things I just kind of want to touch on too. So a lot of you might not know that, you know, we have another system with Zaheer and his team as well, the Market Advantage toolkit, and that toolkit we actually sell for $10,000. It's a $10,000 trading strategy, and Zaheer kind of went through that with us, and he pulled out some of the most popular strategies out of there, the ones that he uses the most frequently in that system, and that's kind of where Market Edge technology came from. So this is giving you access to, you know, the full kind of system they've created, some of the more popular strategies out of that full system, I should say, for 1/10 of the cost of that full retail rate. So that's really big too. And I mean, I know he mentioned it, but that onboarding call that he's talking about, this means you're getting access to a professional on a one-on-one session where they're going to kind of go through your portfolio with you. They're going to answer your questions. He's going to answer your questions for you and kind of really help make sure that you're on track here. And then as far as, yes, the whole MetaStock side goes, if you need help just with the software in general, we have an entire team here to support you with that. If you're already a user of MetaStock, then yeah, this is your chance to get one of our best trading systems, I'd say, for you know, just $997. That's a fantastic offer. If you don't have MetaStock yet, that's okay too. Reach out to us. We can get you hooked up with a trial of MetaStock so that you can utilize this strategy and see how it works. I mean, I really think this is great, especially, you know, in the long term. You're not really seeing that much of a cost if this is going to help you, you know, to get a higher percentage on your return over several years to come. You especially saw, you know, Zaheer's earlier slides where he's kind of reviewing how much of a difference it'll make if you're just getting a slightly higher, you know, compounding interest rate on your portfolio. And this is a great strategy that'll really outline all of that and can help you guys succeed pretty significantly. We do also have a landing page put together for this. So if you guys wanted to learn a little bit more or take advantage of it, here, I'll actually share my screen if that's okay, Zaheer.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I'll come back on camera too. And let's go ahead and share my screen here. So yes, this is a recent release here. As Zaheer mentioned, we're doing $500 off. And if you guys were to go to metastock.com/sublime MET, that'll let you take advantage of this limited time offer. Also, if you're interested in getting MetaStock, or if you have further questions, anything like that, we have a sales team here that's happy to answer any of your questions, kind of help you out with that. They can hook you up with the trial while you test out this trading strategy. And you can visit metastock.com/sales chat for that. And there is another thing that we wanted to touch on as well for all of you. So because, there is so much to kind of learn and so much to kind of go over in here, the way that it's structured, it makes it really easy to pick up on all of that. But I think it is important to really fully understand the trading strategies that you're utilizing and to fully understand how all of this works. And we're going to be doing a customer only special boot camp with Zaheer, and that's coming up on the 30th, I believe, is the date that we chose. So if you guys are interested in also having some additional training and participating in that live to ask even more questions directly with Zaheer, I highly recommend trying this out now. And then in just a couple of weeks, once you're a little familiarized, you can have that another basically type of session with Zaheer when he's doing this boot camp. He's always happy to answer questions there, but we're really going to dive deep into everything inside of the strategy in that boot camp session, and you will get access to a recording for it as well. That normally lasts a couple of hours for that, because we're really trying to teach how everything works throughout that, and it is a customer only session. But if you're watching this in the future, we'll have that recorded and available to users as well. So keep that in mind too. There's going to be extensive training, but there's already a complete manual that comes with this too. And of course, here's one-on-ones and our MetaStock support to kind of help you guys get up and running. But I did want to mention that. Another thing that we're wanting to mention, because Zaheer is going to be participating in this too, is we're doing an international summit on the 27th of this month. So it's coming up, where we're going to have many speakers kind of talking about the markets and showcasing different things and answering questions. And if you guys wanted to participate in that as well, you can register for that on our website, just metastock.com/events, or we'll put some direct links in the chat for you too, where you can go in and register for that upcoming summit, where we're going to have, I believe it's 7 speakers now that'll be participating in that event, including Zaheer. So I recommend that for you guys too. I'm going to double check to see if we have had any additional questions come in. I'll say thank you, Greg, for sharing all the links on YouTube and in GoToWebinar. Yeah, I don't see other questions, so I think we've touched on a lot of it. Zaheer, is there anything else that you wanted to say?
No, that was brilliant, Bobby. Thanks for the reminder of the boot camp. And we will be able to, obviously, I think it's about a 3-hour boot camp. So we'll have plenty of time to go through that boot camp and really knuckle down into the nitty-gritty of this system and answer, everyone's questions to make sure that people know how to use this.
Another thing I'll maybe highlight here as well, Zaheer did mention this, but that you get access to their community. And I just want to tell you guys, they actually have a fantastic community there where you can kind of interact with other people about the markets, and where Zaheer and his other partner, Kola, they're posting every single day, and they're letting you guys know about securities that are kind of caught on their eye and the different tiers that they're marked at. So if you also want to have, a group that you can follow along with, and if you want to follow along with what is Zaheer looking at, basically every single day, the community is going to do that for you and give you access to that. I follow along with their emails on a daily basis. You can also follow along inside the community itself. So I really just want to say that that's a huge part of this too. It maybe is only mentioned briefly throughout this, but having that access to that community, having Zaheer and Kola and his team posting in there every single day and keeping you up to date on the markets, it's another fantastic thing about this. And the fact that this is all the most popular, the most widely used system out of that full $10,000 strategy that we've offered in the past. I mean, this is a fantastic deal. So I highly recommend taking advantage of it while it's on sale. And yeah, just either come join us in our chat room or visit metastock.com/sublimemet, and we can help you guys out with that. And yeah, I think that wraps it up. So thanks again, Zaheer. You did a fantastic job. As always, I am looking forward to having you speak with us again on the 27th and towards helping you host the boot camp on the 30th.
Absolutely. Bobby, thank you for today, and look forward to the next one.
Fantastic. All right, everyone have a great rest of your night. Thanks.